The Hawrot Siblings present Barely Scratching the Surface. As you leave downtown Steubenville and head uptown, you'll notice a collapsed tunnel entrance on the left. It's across a field at the base of the hill, Pleasant Heights. This is a large neighborhood that stretches back to the hospital and then dips back down to Beatty Park below. There's not much to notice about this little landmark. It appears as a collapsed entrance to an old mine. Locals report it used to be a watering station for horses, heading in that direction a long time ago. And they are correct. But that is only part of it. There are rumors that there is more to it, that it is an abandoned bunker or science lab from the previous century, that it is a burial ground for Native Americans, or that a mythical beast sleeps beneath, or a Civil War general hid his gold there while escaping west from the war. Whatever the case, it's always intrigued me as a kid, and I've fated myself with one day exploring what it actually is, and today is that day. A special thanks goes out to Ohio Valley Historical Society as well as the Pittsburgh Archaeological Foundation, who both sponsored this event. In moments, we will see what lies beneath the hill of Pleasant Heights, and hopefully it is as pleasant as its name. Some light chuckles emitted from the nearly dozen people who stood on the grass observing the event. I, Martin Smythe, and my cameraman, Denson, will be recording each step along the way. You will all be able to see it on this screen or posted live online for those not with us. The explorer waved at the camera to those watching from the internet. Now let the show begin! The camera kept on the explorer, and they approached the collapsed entrance to the tunnel. As rocks and dirt were dug out, the camera shook as the two men climbed around and into the darkness on the other side. The beams of their flashlights led the way. The air is musty and damp. There appears to be a path leading down into the cave. No litter or garbage. Seems like no one has been here in a long time. Further down into the dark cave, the two men went. Their flashlights wandered up and down the walls, looking for anything interesting or out of place. And as we examine these rocks, we can, oh wait, what's this? Martin directed the camera to the ground towards what looked like a concrete floor. Following it around, they saw it connected to walls and a low ceiling as well. It was as if the cave led to an underground building. It looks like there might be something to the bunker theory, Martin exclaimed to the camera. Further in they went, as Martin described the now man-made walls of the tunnel sloping down. They came across various rooms along the hallway. Some were empty. Others were filled with old office furniture. Several had what looked like primitive machines from the 50s or 60s that somehow still had power. Blips and beeps disrupted the otherwise silent building. We could easily spend a whole week looking at all this. This is amazing. It appears the tunnel keeps going, though, and we will press on. Further down, the concrete walls soon turned to rock again. The air was colder and even more damp. By my calculations, we may be approaching deep beneath downtown Steubenville. The river would be beyond, said Martin to the camera. As he said this, he noticed his voice echoed across the walls of his entering a large open space. A faint glow appeared around the bend. Picking up the pace, they cleared the corner and were speechless at what they saw. The camera fluttered this way and that, taking in the scene in front of them. They were in a giant cavern. The ceiling rose 100 yards. Beneath it looked like an abandoned little city, with buildings lining the streets. Some structures looked more modern, while others had older architecture. A few entire buildings stood out and were of a design Martin had never seen before. The cave seemed to stretch back a quarter mile. Oddly enough, the back wall appeared luminescent, like glowing rock. Martin stepped forward into the room and felt he was walking through a thin, invisible waterfall. Immediately, the back wall pulsed, and a wave of wind and light traveled across the room. The two men fell to the ground, and the camera slid away. What happened next is not fully describable. As the camera continued rolling, flashes of images appeared with each wave of light from the wall. Pulse. Darkness and fear, giant shapes moved in the cave. Pulse. Two people brought a low light that grew across the back wall, and the dark shapes left. Pulse. People appeared, and soon buildings, streets, and a thriving city. Pulse. The people were gone, and the buildings deteriorated. Different people showed up, and the light dimmed. Pulse. These new people also left. The light dimmed further, and the dark shapes appeared on the other side of the wall. Pulse. The light faded as the dark creatures broke into the cavern. Fear returned. These images then cycled back to the beginning and started over. this time picking up speed and intensity. The explorers looked on with tears in their eyes. The magnificence, mystery, and terror at what they saw was overwhelming. Without warning, the wind and light picked back up even more. The camera fell to the ground and slid backwards as the wind drove it further into the tunnel. The last shot the camera saw was the two explorers holding onto a rock. Martin yelled something inaudible to Denson as a roaring wind nearly took them off their feet. There was another flash of light, and then the camera went black. That was the last of the recording. There was a moment of uneasiness in the room as the screen went blank. Finally, a voice spoke up. "What was the date on that recording?" said a man with a deep voice. "May 10th, 2025, a second person responded, sounding slightly flustered. "That is almost 22 years from now." More silence. "And who found this?" "A couple kids at Beatty Park found a little cave. They discovered the camera and brought it to their parents. Eventually, it found its way to us." "And the explorer, do we have an identification on him?" "Yes, sir. We found a match. A local living on LaBelle. Except, what is it?" "He's only 7. More silence. Why didn't we stop him?" The man pondered to himself. Something must have happened. Obviously, we were, unless... The unfinished thought hung heavy in the air. He regained his posture and continued. "Very well, then. Business as usual. Keep an eye on the boy and keep people away from the cave. Also, we'll have to pick things up. Give me more regular reports on the mill. I have a feeling that's going to escalate before we know it. Apparently, we may only have 22 years. Let's pray it gives us enough time." "Yes, sir. We'll keep you posted." The man turned to leave the room. "Oh, one more thing, Denson. We'll have to work on your camera skills. You were looking a little shaky in the video." Denson gave a slight smirk. "I'm on it." Thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe and visit us at siblingswrite.com.